fast. Connected hadn't already started streaming so for the YouTube people, you would have missed that clip. We'll just find a way of probably, if we get the time to sort of insert it in later. Isma, there is though a clip that I sent you last time. I don't know whether you got that clip. That's the one I want to use for our conversation. If you can find that. But in the meantime, I'm sure you would have felt something looking at that as a parent. If you saw that, I'm sure you should be feeling proud about, what this child was able to do. I want to recognize people who have just joined us into the conversation. Some are first timers, some are, well, the ones who just come in once every little while. Miracle, iPhone, Jadem, I would imagine, Isa Makumbi, Habiba, Laida, Hajat Aisha, Thalatha, NK, Nasamura Jazira, Warda Jamal, Jamil, some my screen. Yes, that's the clip I would want to just mention very quickly as you get that. Aimal and Rana, AZ, AC, Hajat Sarah, Semakura, Hajat Aisha, iPhone. Mention those ones. Rahma, Safina Nanyonjo, Sakari, Sauda Hassan, Warda. Some of them are just repeating. Khenza. Well, welcome to the conversation. I'll allow you to just get a chance to watch this clip and let it lead into our conversation.
Uganda okuniga emele yafe like this.
Isma, I think the clip we are seeing on the screen is different from the one that is playing.
Remember when
you can hear the sound. I wouldn't mind it playing once more because it is very short, and then you can load this one so that we can lead up, and especially for the YouTube people on YouTube, and we are live. Remember, we are streaming live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. Just look for facebook.com/75W Radio, and you'll have that. Or alternatively, we are even on Twitter now. Which became now X. It's no longer Twitter. Let's go ahead, Isma, please. Let's play on that.
Abazadde bakola ekyejo abaana yamusitula namutwala ku ssomero namusumiza namutwala ku university tayinza nagenda kusoma result ze omwana yamusasulira buli kimu bw'amala okusoma najja nakonkona omwana wange yamaze okusoma mbadde nsaba omulimu. Excuse me, abaana tebasobola nakwezza waka otegedde holiday wedde alinda ddadi ajankime. Excuse me, ekyo kyejo kyangeri ki? Abavubuka namwe abazadde gye muli abaana bawe liberty to explore. Omwana akuze okuva mu primary nga yagenda ku dduuka ne bamutuma ebinyeebwa nadda nagenda oleeta amafuta ku shell nadda tayinza competinga nawuwo ng'ekiseera ky'okusitwagule nga kituuse ng'owuwo omukumira mu mmotoka. Toyinza kumutuma ku dduuka, toyinza mutuma kusomera kime results ze, toyinza mutuma wantu wonna buli kimu school fees ogw'omusasulira. Omwana mutume school fees bazimubbeko ayige tibobeera careless bakubba. Abavubuka batya to go ahead and start. Olina okubaako n'ekintu kyoyagala. Waliwo nakola paper number ku early beginners, early starters. Banji, there are so many. Genda bugenzi ku Google tekemu early starters. You will be fascinated n'abantu abajja ba billionaires abafa n'abaliwo kati. Tutegeeragana nga batandise bato emyaka muntu wawere 18 obwongo buba bukuze dadi yakutuulako ne mami ne abaana bakulira ku myaka 14 natandika wala abaana be nasoma nabo nga batandika kusubula ku myaka 14 era twagenda ogenda ku university nga bo bagagga. Yes, bagenda kugenda ku university nga balina epikipiki basubula ne bagenda Kenya. Kenya yali nga kyamaguzi kinene kati bikyaliwo. Olina kugenda walala ko, olina kugenda Malaysia, olina kugenda luddawa. Abaana balina okuyiga okukyalenyiga abazadde baabwe. Omwana amala okusoma dadi namukulira graduation party ya million 10 naye nga talina mulimu wagenda kola. Challenge your dad. Omugambe graduation gye mwagala okunkolera ku luno nasomye kino kati nga wa mass communication, njagala kamera, njagala laptop, njagala editing studio, njagala kamera 3 nja kukola. Kati sente ziri mu mass communication mpitirivu. TV zonna zinoonya local drama, local content. Abantu tebabirina. naye abaana baddeeyo ne bakonda nga bakonkona ofiisi z'abantu lwakubanga tebakwatiddwako. Omwana asomye mass communication tewaliwo kimukozesa pale nga tanafuna kamera z'essatu, tanafuna laptop kwagenda ku editing shoot ye tagirina. Bw'aba obimuwadde pate ajja gyekolera, ajja kukolera bigger party even. Ebintu bingi bye tugendamu kati abantu bagamba nnyo abaana diguli esooka temala nze ngamba diguli esooka emala. Omwana yes ne diguli tetukyagyetaaga nnyo. Omwana bw'amala HSC anagenda mu bintu bino ebikola, anagenda mu bintu ebikola. Waliwo yasoma n'agamba nti tulabye n'ensi eyitibwa Uganda, we've got the best wood, the best timber. Ontegedde naye abantu bagenda okugula tufanikya waabwe bagenda Dubai ne bagula ebiyiikayiika kubanga tebamanyi how to do it. Abazungu tayinza kubeera mu miti gino n'atagula mashini n'emmeeza yagyekolera n'otukwenda ogamba what's this. Tulina okufuna technical skills, ebintu ebituyamba ne mindset nti ekyo kirina kuba kyabazungu, ekyo kirina kuva bweru, ekyo kirina kukola bwe kiti. Tulina okubyejjamu, tulabe environment nga bwetwetolodde, tulabe kiki gyetuyinza okugijjamu. Bwofuna omuntu ng'ona.
All right. Well, I think that should really get us tracking into the conversation. And as I do, a quick message. Remember, if you have anything burning that you'd like to share, you can just go into the chat room, just drop your message there. Or as we do, you can raise your hand just the Zoom way. You just click on the raise your hand. If you just go to reactions, if you're on phone, and you'll click on being able to raise your hand. That's the same application, I think, even on laptops. Yes, a message here from Nasamura Jazira, who says, living alone the daily work at home, like cleaning and cooking. I remember my grandmother and my mother taught me on how to make mats. That is mats from either is it coconut palm tree leaves and or from papyrus reeds sometimes. And whenever I sold them, my mother would buy for me clothes. Therefore, I was not a burden for her. Fantastic. That's a nice one to hear. Well, why don't we just actually kick off with you, Suhaila, just to open the conversation. Remember, it would be good just to hear from you regarding those particular experiences that you went through in your life. The program is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and tonight we are talking about skilling. You've seen from Charles Siasa Senkubuge is one of the leading Ugandan artists. And actually for the young people probably whose Luganda might be limited, let me just very briefly say as I bring in Jazira Nasamula to lead us into the conversation on the point that she's actually just texted into the chat room. The point that the Siasa Senkubuge has been trying to make is the fact that people have been spoon feeding their children for so long. You don't allow, because you have a maid at home, so the child is just allowed to keep their hands in their pockets. They are watching their telly, they are on their tablets. They are not getting a chance to be able to participate and even learn skills at home. You take them to school, so you carry them to school, you pick them from school. You are not giving them a chance to even be streetwise, because when a child starts walking from school, of course, if their places are very dangerous in some instances, then you should watch out that. But you need to give them a bit of independence, the benefit of a doubt as well, because you grow up by facing challenges. You manage to, maneuver and get around these challenges. Allow a child, send them to the shop, let them come. Give them school fees to go and bank. That is in the Ugandan situation. For example, in an African situation, give them money to go and pay their own fees in the bank. If the money is stolen, then they will know how to deal with that. We've had situations like those when you would go to a bank and you lose money, and you know what that means. The parent was working too hard to get the money, you lose it, you are in serious trouble. But from that, you get a particular lesson that then you use for future reference. It becomes very, very important later on. Then, of course, now he talks about giving them the power, empowering them to be able to go to the shops, lose the money, work from home, get these experiences, because that's what life is. But the parent has, ferried the child from and back to school. When they get to university, they even carry them to university with their luggage, put them there, keep picking them up. By the time they finish uni, they can't even go to apply for a job. It's the parent again to go and use their connections and their contacts that they have to go and knock on people's doors to say, my son has completed uni, could you please provide them with a job? And he's saying, this is absolutely wrong. You've not allowed the child to develop skills that will allow them to be there. What happens when you are gone? Can they stand on their own? What sort of parent will they become then in their future? Of course, that now I thought was a very important point that would lead us into the conversation. Safina Nanyonjo, I see your hand is up. I think we'll start with you as we get to Nassam like Gazira as well. Okay, please go ahead, Safina. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the conversation.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Amin. Yes, you.
This is an interesting topic.
Thank you.
I'd like to look at it in 3 angles. One about my childhood. By profession, I'm a teacher. So I'll talk about my home life. Then when I started teaching, then I traveled abroad. And abroad life is divided into 2. The life undercover, and then the life when the documentation starts getting right. So my home life, I thank Allah starting point for the way our mom brought us up. For most people, they looked at her as a very tough person. But the skills or the life skills she gave me as I was growing up have made me succeed when I came abroad.
Paint a picture, please. Paint a picture for us, Safina. What did you have to do that turned you into the person that you've become? At
home, even if we had house helps, we always did the house chores too. And growing up, I was this other academic-oriented person who only wanted books. I was lazy. They tell me off. So they were always seeing that in my head, you know. And I used to try. But even if I wasn't doing so much, but I was always there. So I was that child in the kitchen, wherever my mom was cooking. She sends me, bring me this, bring me the other. And I was observing. And I was taking all that one in. Now, all her cooking, because my mom is such a fantastic cook, if I might say that. So consequently, when I moved abroad, because we are in the US right now, before I got my papers official, the first job I got was in a kind of a restaurant kind of thing. In fact, they were doing Mexican food. The restaurant belonged to a Pakistani. I looked at the Mexicans, the way they were cooking the food was bad, really. They cook color and no flavor. And in my head, I was like, I can do that. I can cook that rice. I can cook that meat. And when they looked at me, because I sat with my boss when I just joined, and he asked me, what do you want to do? And I told him, I want to do anything that doesn't involve alcohol or pork. So the man says, okay, I have many places, but some of them have alcohol. Let me look around and see what I can do for you. So he calls me and tells me, yeah, there's this one truck stop. At least there they don't have alcohol. I said, okay. So I went to work in there. So when I get there, in fact, when he was talking to me, he says, what have you been doing in Uganda? I said, in Uganda, I was a teacher. I was a manager. I had an office. I had whatever. So he was asking me, how will you manage to do our kind of work with that kind of background? And I said, trust me, I will. So the first day I reported to work, he came to that section because they couldn't believe I could adjust. But the background I said about my mom, because she made us do everything despite whatever. When her cars came around, we used to wash them ourselves. She could also be there washing the car, so I would be washing the car as well. So things to do with house chores, that was a given. So it's the attitude I brought. I'd rather clean an area than wait for a cleaner to come when the place is dirty. So that day he came in, he found me already with a mop in my hands, looking at this bad food, and I'm saying I can cook the food. So one time I tell my boss, the manager, I can do rice. I said, really? Yes. So they allowed me this other big pan of rice. I'd never ever done the big pans, you know. We know we do the cooking, some cooking. But I said I can do it. So I made this other rice and everyone converged. I was like, to me, it was a normal thing, but to them, they were like, it was something special. And everyone who was coming, I want that rice, I want that rice. I said, This is a skill I learned from home. Then I was like, we're coming into Ramadan and they were looking for Ramadan bites. And I said, I can do samosas. I said, what? Yes, I can do samosas. Because I used to see my mom making samosas at home. So I did samosas and I was like, what? So that it was put on the menu and we started selling samosas too. And they became such a big seller because whites look at this and say, what are those triangle things? And you tell them they are called samosas. And then they started loving them. So I was that kind of person. I was cooking this, I was cooking the other. In fact, I was hated by the Mexican cooks because they were brought in as the specialists. Then here I come to them, I'm a nobody, and I'm kind of stealing the show.
You're already shining, you're beginning to shine.
I know. And I was like, you know, in my head, I was like, we're supposed to be working as a team. It doesn't matter who is cooking. They just want good food from the kitchen. But they couldn't understand it. So I did the cooking. So that's coming from home. And then in my school days, I did a bit of home economics where we were baking. So in my S4 vacation, the new park, the starting new park, because you know the new park has changed many times, but the starting new park at home.
Yes.
My mom was in the textiles business and she used to work on Loom Street. So the new park is opening up and they bring textiles into that park. That park had taxis going to Luero, wherever. People had never ever seen clothes on bundles. They only see pieces. So it took so long for the business to pick up. So in the beginning, she was like, what can we do to make some daily income? She could do chapatis. And then I was like, at school, I learned baking cakes. So I started making cakes at home, queen cakes. So our daily income was from selling mineral water, soda, chapatis, and cakes. And they were selling. Skill I learned from school. But that took us for some time until business picked up. Because people never understood the materials on rolls. They just know the pieces. So that was that. Then I started teaching. When I was teaching at a school, Taiba International School. I think some people know about it.
That's where I did my teaching practice.
So Taiba International School had this other fantastic education. They had subjects like textiles, they had woodwork, they had French, they had music, drama, stuff like that. And as a teacher and a counselor to students, I was telling you guys, people are paying money to study French out of school. You're studying French as part of your school fees. So if you really put your heart to it, because a language, another language is another thing, because these days they're looking for translators, meaning knowing another language can be another skill you can use to earn money. And then textiles, I was amazed because kids by 8th grade, 9th grade, they'd start using the sewing machine. And I was telling people, the best designers in the world are earning great monies from this machine. And in my head, I was like, I wish I had such opportunities in my school days. Then coming from, Taiba also had what they called work experience. We struggled with parents to make them understand why we were taking children out to work. Studying the kids are candidates, they should be reading. All other schools are doing coaching at this time. And we're like, guys, all these things the kids are doing, they want later in life to go and work, but they've never ever been given an opportunity to work. So let's give them a chance. How do you know we can't let our children go there? It's not, guys, the jobs we're getting them from parents like you and friends of that. It was hard work to convince the parents that their kids really need to go out to work. And surprisingly, after that work experience, the following term, the kids used to be changed. You could see them being more serious, more focused. The other skill I learned from Taiba was the director, Hajatu Mariam. She said, never go to a place and you do not look around and count money. The first example she gave was, if you go to a restaurant, look around and say it's lunch hour. If all the tables are full, just count all those tables and say minimally, if they're spending this much money, how much money is this restaurant owner earning?
Yeah.
She told us to count potatoes, the ones that make chips. They say a plate of chips is about 2 little potatoes, and they're selling plain chips at 5,000. How much money is that? So she was telling us to mind the little things where the money is, instead of thinking about large capital. And then they introduced another program at school, which was an entrepreneurship project. Kids had to come up with a business proposal and run a project for, I think, 2 months. And then you run the books as well. How much costs have you put in? How much profit are you making? So kids used to come up with businesses like maybe shoe shining, washing clothes, anything. And then, so those were skills kids were being given.
So Safina, looking at today, since you're a teacher, are you applying some of these as a side business at all? Because you mentioned something that was quite interesting. I mean, we went to school and we had one of the people that I've studied and lived with for the longest, Hajati Ravia here in UK. And from primary school, we get to secondary, we get to university. She was already, you know, creative, making those foods and, you know, selling to people, getting clothes from people who used to sell them from outside and just bringing them into school, and already beginning to make money. And to see that now she's self-employed, big on food in UK, I think speaks volumes just in terms of, you know, the way she's managed to build into that, come into a career, but then divulge back to that. Have you totally lost that now as you go into class? Or
no. At least right now, I told you before my papers became so normal, I was doing the cooking and whatever. Then, because being a teacher and I love teaching, so I went back into teaching. So when I went back into teaching, they're asking what clubs can we open at school? And I put down cookery club. So, and many kids were motivated to come in. And you know, these are white kids, African-American kids. And they look at you and say, I bought a lot of stuff. Then I put them in this other school kitchen. And I teach them how to do this and the other. And their greatest moment was the eating part, you know? When all
isn't it always?
Yeah. But then for the rest of the school, the whole school could be smelling and teachers could be coming. And then some of them wanted to buy. But when you're teaching, it's hectic. But then I have another job in care. So in care, the people I work with, they started telling me, can you make us this and we pay? So I'm selling to samosas on the weekend. So every Friday after Juma, I have to wrap samosas. I have an order, give me 15, bring me 20. So,
yes. That is a skill. Safina, just allow me, because of time, just to thank you so much, and then allow more people to participate in the conversation. Fantastic first-time guest, and brilliant. I'm sure you've opened many of those who might be shying and sort of be able to come out. To come and have the conversation tonight. We are talking about skilling. If you've just joined us, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. You are the experts. It is those experiences that we hear from you, shared experiences that we hope to carry forward and make a better life. See how Safina went, you know, from the person who was learning the skills and then getting to apply them to full effect. Definitely, I mean, that is really, really something. I would be very interested to hear from some young people in the conversation later on. If you are on and you are listening in, please be sure to raise your hand. It will be good just to hear from the younger people as well, especially the skills they've managed to tap from their parents. Jazira, I come to you next. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, as I stated first in my message that I learned this making mats in Uganda, Vajita Nikeka. So when I was in my vacation, senior 4, senior 6, my mother would buy for me these things and we make. When you sell, you buy what you want. Huh? And there is this happiness you feel when you have earned this your money. You don't have a job, most especially people who live in the villages, but you earn your money and there is that happiness that you feel. That is point number 1. Point number 2, when a child is trained on how to do this homework, cooking, cleaning, chiba changu okubeera buli wamu. Most especially nti obeera mu kyalo, then oyagala kugenda ku university or any other secondary school, maybe in Kampala. But your aunt or your uncle will not take you in when you're just lazy nga webaka webasi. But when you're there, you're helping here and here, they appreciate. So you hear some people say, I can't stay with the children of so and so because they are lazy. Every time they are sleeping, they just want to eat. That is another issue. Then, you find someone, most especially, I will bring about that issue of making chapati. In Ramadan, you find some homes, they are buying chapati on the streets, on the roads. But I remember my home, I want to mention, we're about 10 people fasting, but I would make chapati for all these 10 people. And we had boys, they eat 3 to 4 chapatis. But I would make, and leave some, we had boys, they would eat 3 to 4. Yeah. But you make, they eat and even leave some. So this parent, becomes happy with you. He's saving some money. Instead of going on the streets buying such things, you make them at home. Someone brings someone from outside to come and wash clothes. Can you imagine? But all this you can do. So one time, right now I'm not in Uganda, I'm in Saudi. But what made this simple for me is that I'm used. So I'm not scared that, I'm going to do a lot of work or I'm used, I know what to do. So it makes life simple for you.
Jazira, a lot of times, especially now that you're mentioning where you are, I would imagine Safina is in the US from the accent I was picking up. I hope I'm right. Jazira, now that you're mentioning Saudi Arabia, many people talk about all the hard work, all the, the much hard work. They will give you an entire floor, and Arabs just pile a lot of work. It is not something that you ever envisaged growing up that you would end up in Saudi Arabia.
This is because I know that when I wake up, you have to timetable yourself. Some people, I will not say they are lazy, but sometimes they are not used it. There is what Mr. Senkubuge talked about, that a child is taken to school from baby class to university. After that, there is no work. Maybe say, what should I do? Let me go to Dubai or let me go to Saudi. You end up there. These people, they want everything cleaned. They want everything done in time. They want everything done so fast. Because for them, everything is fast, fast, fast. So when you use it, you know what to do, timetable yourself. After doing your work, I swear by Allah, you can always rest. But if you've not finished, then you work the entire day and you work the entire night.
But there are times when you finish, there are people who don't want to see you like resting. Once you finish the job, they just pile more.
I know, but you use, there is this, what can I say? You know that maybe these people, they don't want to see me resting, but if you finish the big work, then you can always move around and doing the small works until the day will end. But Alhamdulillah, for me, I'm thankful because I have my resting time. If I finish my work, I've finished.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jazira. And good to hear. This is, like I said, your global community conversation. We go all over the world. And Safina is in Missouri in the United States of America. So as you've seen, Jazira is in Saudi Arabia. Global program where we're talking about community issues, things that come in quite handy. Something that I did mention in the trailer that has brought some of you into the conversation. When I just got my wife, I was worried because, yes, I was attracted by love, but coming from a restaurant history, what I didn't know is, well, they also owned restaurants in Uganda. Actually, one of the busiest restaurants, MUHARRAM restaurant around Owino there, for people who will know of that old age, but also back home in the village, they had a restaurant. But I didn't know, and growing up in a restaurant, I'm very particular about my food. I'm a foodie. I mean, anyone who sees my posts on Facebook, they'll just know what I love my food, but I love it because I have passion in it. I understand it. I would feel the kind of energy that goes into a food that someone gives me. Food that has been prepared without care and whatever, I can feel it just in the eating. So I was worried when I just got my wife, and I'm thinking, if she cooks for me and the food doesn't work, this might affect, our relationship. Of course, the English saying is the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So for about 3 months, I had to find every excuse. To make sure she doesn't cook. And I was doing most of the cooking, nearly all the cooking, trying to avoid a situation where probably she might cook and I wouldn't like it. Of course, with time now, it fitted in pretty well. And once she started cooking, I was perfectly fine. But I was very cautious. But this was from the kind of upbringing that we were brought up with, you know, Sibamubombo, Kunyiga, doing all this, and you know, we would be part of that. Growing up in a restaurant, anyone who knows the restaurant life, the way you have to wake up very early in the morning, and our restaurant was quite where I grew up in Liantonde. This was sort of an international space because you had truck drivers. So our restaurant was known specifically for truck drivers, and these would be Swahili speakers. So Kenyans, Congolese, Tanzanians, Burundians, Rwandans, those would be the people that come to our restaurant. Another restaurant, Sabena, that one used to be for the Maikas, the rich guys going to Western Uganda, the Wanyankole Bahima would be, you know, there. We were actually our restaurant, and this, I feel very proud. Museveni's mom used to take milk from our place, and it's the only place where she drank milk. Her bongo, the makamo, which we call, I think it would be called yogurt here or sour milk. And I was hand in hand, you know, hand in glove, preparing that milk. The fact that I used to do that, she would come, she would pack exports there, and we are serving her milk. So we grew up with that particularity with food, but my mother had also adopted it from her father, who opened one of the first restaurants in Kigali in Rwanda. And it was a very well-known restaurant. That's where my dad got her from. So the history is there, but you grow up a passion that is totally different. I think it was Safina who mentioned, Nalongo Ramla, I've seen your hand and I'm coming to you very quickly. About languages, Safina did mention issue of languages. Alhamdulillah, I speak 12 languages, and the languages that I learned in school probably are 2 or 3 of these 12 languages. The rest are languages I've taught myself along the way, migrating from one place to another. And I cannot tell you how wealthy this, you know, has become. When I joined the BBC back in 2003, 2004, when I joined the BBC as a Kinyarwanda news presenter, Kinyarwanda Kirundi news presenter. Within 6 months, I'd already been stolen by the English department to present on the biggest continental program focused on Africa, because I had the English, I had the Kinyarwanda, I had the Swahili, by the time I finished my time in the BBC, more than 10 years, I was a Swahili presenter. So moving between departments, and I would go to Arabic department to do interviews, I would improvise on French. It was just amazing. The issue of languages comes in quite handy. This is not necessarily something you learn in school, and these are skills you learn. But I grew up in a home where at any point in time, we would be speaking 4 languages at once. Being born in Barara, we would speak with Runyankore. My grandmom was Mnyarwanda, so Kinyarwanda was common. Living in Kakoma, which was a Swahili area predominantly with Manubi there, we were speaking the Kabara Sunu, picking up that, but also speaking the Swahili. And then we had Luganda, because every Muslim had to know Luganda, because actually in Ankole, when you became Muslim, they would say Abirum Gand, because you become Muganda when you become Muslim, because it's the Baganda who took Islam to Western Uganda. With languages, you can never go wrong. And this is one part that I sometimes feel we have failed as parents to impart, because you end up with your children being unable to learn these languages. And probably they might not have seen the importance of it. They just realize it now. And many now of the kids are pushing now to want to learn more than a language. Ramla, now I come to you. If you've just joined us, this is 55 minutes, 5 minutes to 9 o'clock in the United Kingdom. A very interesting conversation, I must say. Narongo, go ahead. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good to have you. Habari za leo?
Na salam, labda nyinyi huko.
Salam, alhamdulillah. Yes, go ahead, please.
This is my own experience. In my family, we are born 9, and I'm the last born. You know, last born is Babera Nebiejo. So I grew up with all my sisters and brothers, but I was the little one. All my sisters knew what to do at an early stage. But me, until I reached P7, my mom still had to wash for me, do most of things for me. Then our elder sisters were saying, oh, but with us, you taught us how to do things when we are young. What you are spoiling Ramla, she would say, Ajakuyiga, she will learn. But eventually, I think my elder sisters sat in their group and decided, no, if we leave our mom is spoiling this child. So they sat among themselves. What they did, they sent me to one of my laziest sister to go and finish my secondary school. They say, that one will manage. Yes. So when they told my mom, it was just like a forceful. Oh, Ramla is going to Soroti by then. She's going to Soroti to live with so and so. That's it. She was like, oh, my baby. And then she wanted me to go at the same time, wanted me to stay. Eventually, my sisters overpowered, and I went to live in Soroti. Soroti, you know, leaving your mom. My sister, as I told you, she was the lazy one. I had to do all the jobs. A lazy person is very clean. Anybody lazy wants, do that. I used to cry, but I said, what can I do? Even my mom gave up for me. I'm here. Anyway, to cut the story short, I struggled. I finished, which was good. It taught me a lot of things. And my mom, what I remember from her, she used to say, omukazi talwala, omukazi takyala. She would say, okay, you can grow up and you have kids. If you say you are sick, who will look after the kids? It's you. And even if you visit, they give you food, you just sit there, they gave you food and just push the plate away. But to encourage you as a visitor, you take out, you wash the dishes, do the helpfulness. And I knew that, and I taught my girls as well. Of recent, we went with my girls to Uganda. One of my sister, she has maids. She has maids, about 2-3 maids. So when we were with the twins, she served us food, everything. When we finished eating, the maids were taking things. Even my twins helped. After taking the dirty things out, they volunteered to wash the dishes. And when you travel there, we were many, the dishes were a lot. Everybody wondered, hey, abana be Bulaya, beboze ebintu. My sister made the story, they all know, hey, the maid was just seated. My twins went, no, we are going to do the dishes. They did all the dishes, cleaned the floor, they did everything. Everybody wondered, say, hey, abana be Bulaya. Hey, they did this. I said, yes. So I was praised, and with that courage, one of my daughter is a hardworking lady. She's doing cleaning as her part-time job. I checked on her account, she even has more money than I do, because her money just goes there. She does her own things, but she's a hardworking person, and she's still young. She hasn't even reached 20, but she has more money than most of us here. So I think teaching children how to work hard is something very good. That is my view for the day.
How have you managed to transfer this to the twins and your children?
I keep talking to them, and they follow the example. I'm a hardworking lady. I used to tell them, my mom used to do this, we do that, and you have to do it. So I think they are following us.
Now, good to hear. Thank you very much, Ramla.
You're welcome.
Get to the younger people now and just hear their own take, especially what they've managed to pick up, especially those lessons, or even listening into the conversation. Warda, I come to you. Warda, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hi, Warda, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, sorry, I'm listening on this laptop instead. Sorry, assalamu alaikum.
All right. Okay, well, yeah, you've just been listening in. I'm sure you have particular experiences. It would be good to hear about skills. You've been listening. First of all, maybe give me your reaction, listening to the people who have already spoken. How do you feel? What's your take? Do you see value in skills?
I think that the skills people are talking about are really impressive, and but they're specific to Uganda in a sense. They're specific to the specific upbringing that like aunties and uncles might have. And my experience and a lot of young people's experience in the UK with skills is different. And so because it looks different, it might seem like we're being lazy or we're not really putting in the work. But I think skills come in all different shapes and forms and sizes.
But Warda, when you say the skills are different here, if we talk about, for example, making a bed or cooking, for example, your mom is a very good cook. have you tried to adopt some of these skills, like the cooking skills? Probably, I mean, that's where now the experience comes in. That it might not necessarily be a different setting.
Oh yeah, skills like cooking and like cleaning and like making a bed and stuff. Those are
What do you cook?
I cook rice, I cook pilau sometimes, I cook lasagna, chapati. I'm really good at chapatis now. Mandazis, puff, like things like that. Yeah.
And do you find it easy to do? Do you find it easy to do? Is it something that you've got to like? Because sometimes you might be able to do it, but out of duress.
I think I think it's all about practice. When you start practicing and you start like not just like cooking once and then leaving it, but cooking and then coming back again and trying and coming back again and trying, and you get the hang of it, it becomes enjoyable after that.
Okay. Well, so now in terms of skills, because life skills are much wider, it just goes beyond. Do you find it easy to make your bed? As a girl, I would imagine that is easy.
Yeah.
Boys quite often struggle with making their beds, but not necessarily girls.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of second nature to me to wake up, you know, get dressed and then make my bed. Sometimes I'll just get out of bed and like just, you know, bed's not that messy and I just fluff it out. It's kind of second nature to me. I don't really, when you say it's like a skill, it kind of doesn't register in my head as a skill because it's just something I do regularly anyways. Although sometimes like, you know, sometimes if I'm in a rush, like the bed won't be made or something, but on a regular, yeah, I do make my bed.
No, I mean, you're very lucky. There are many people who struggle to make their beds. And while you say it doesn't register, the day or the moment you visit someone's room, your friend, and you get there and the rooms are all, you know, all over the place, thrown all over. I'm sure you must have visited some of your friends and witnessed that.
No, not really. Birds of a feather flock together.
My friends are very organized as you are.
Yeah, my friends are very organized. So
right. Well, I should say you are very lucky. But in terms of, well, the efforts that we are talking about, just in terms of skills, it's wider. It's you know, it's the cleanliness, it's the hygiene, it's the level of organization. How do you train your younger ones, your younger sisters?
Well, it's mostly just kind of delegating tasks. Like, for example, my mom would ask me, oh, Warda, can you clean the house today? And she'd ask me specifically, and she'd go out, but I would delegate tasks to them. Like, okay, Rana, clean up the sitting room. I'll clean up the thing, and both of you clean up your bedroom. You know, coming in and like maybe like leading by example, like coming in and opening the window in their room to like show that your room needs to be aired out, and telling them when they're in my room, oh, open the window, so that they just learn to do that by themselves as well. I don't think it's always saying, oh no, you have to do this. It's just it's just kind of leading by example. Even when I'm doing chores, like that'll have multiple steps to it, like I don't know, hanging out the washing, you have to go first, take the basket, take the washing that's dried down, fold that up and put that in the laundry basket, then get the washing from the washing machine, take that out, then hang those, and then stuff like that. If it has multiple parts to it, I might ask one of them to, oh, one of you go take the clothes down and fold them, then the other one come and hang them up, and then maybe then I'll do ironing or something like that.
And they do that willingly without a problem. There's no resistance.
Well,
Aimal, are you there? Aimal and Rana, are you there? I'm sure you're listening in. Salaam alaikum.
Sometimes there might be resistance, but most times
well,
not.
I wanted to hear from them.
All right, go on then.
Aimal.
Yes.
Yes, you've heard Warda making the point about allocating duties and you know, you helping out, especially when she gives you what to do. Do you find it easy to do?
Quite sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So are there times when you would resist helping?
No.
All right. Okay. So in terms of skills that we are talking about tonight, what skill have you learned? Do you make any chapatis? Do you fry any eggs?
Oh, sometimes my mom buys chapatis and I help like put them on the pan and cook them.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
How old are you?
I am 12.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Rana, Salaam alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
You also help around.
Yes, I do.
Right, but you are more. I know you as an environmentalist. You're just very keen on on the environment.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you very, very much. Aimal, Rana, and Warda, Barakallahu Fikum. Thank you very much for contributing to the conversation. If you've just joined us, the program is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. And tonight we are talking about skilling. We've just had a very interesting, conversation, I think, from several people. Several hands have come up, and I'll go to Raha, Amina, because you're at work, I'll just come to you quickly before you get busy again. Amina, go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam wa rahmatullah. Good to have you.
This is good to be here. This is a really very interesting show. Thank you for always coming up with these interesting topics.
Allahumma ameen.
So for me, I think I was also one of those unlucky ones because we always had the house help at home, and I kind of thought they were meant to do everything. Unfortunately, like even today, it kind of surprises the people around me, like my husband, when I'm like impereza kuchino kuatirako nyambako, the kind of tuma zone for almost everything, even subconsciously when you don't intend it. So yeah, but on the other hand, because my mom was a very hardworking woman, that is where we kind of like kept to twali bakumugugu. So she would come to the tax park, tukola tufumba chai tuli mukuwereza. That is the part that we passionately picked up on. The few tricks that we learned, like we knew, I would know how much a kilo of sugar would make us muchai omukalu, muchai wa mata. So when a customer came, we know what to do. You go to them, you take back the cup, no tabulamu, and then them squal. And when you come back, they're like, yeah, at least tikati, yeah, because so one of the biggest trick I learned kumulimogo was transparency.
Yes.
And this is what set us apart. Like in the park, there are so many people. Katali, Mama Gundi, the competition is so high. But one thing, Mama she encouraged us to do everything where the customers can see. Wash the cups where they can see. Boil the water, would pack in plastic cups. Like the idea was the customer would appreciate the level of hygiene. More competition, so they would know where to spend their money on. So as many people was dogo, you have to be shrewd, you have to do this. There are those tricks that she taught us. And one also trick is they would never count money in public. So modira centers on and then you mobile in public, and the idea was to scare competitors, to look at the business.
You're not making any money. You're just
like it is not worthwhile.
Yes.
And that actually worked until my graduation, when that is when like we invited the customers who park and they
really?
kind of had a
Oh,
glimpse of the life we are living.
Yes.
And it was a big problem for the women that we are still working that way. So they would say, banange nakawele pataya amina yatukoze bubi. Nobody wants to buy from us. You are pretending here that you are needed, you are not even needed, you're living high life. So that was just part of it. Now, one skill that I really learned, I was in university in second year. My mom had a chance to visit a couple, and this couple was making school sweaters. So when she went there, she was extremely impressed. They gave her an offer until but given the time, nokuba emirimu gye, she wished it for me. Nagamba anena muwala wange ajja kukola ki, she might pick it up.
Yes.
So she told me about it, and usually the long holiday of campus, the 3 months is when you think mugenda okole kasenta akawera. That time I was in second year, and I'd seen how people pimp up their rooms and ayinamu ka carpet, fridge. Nengamba these 3 months ngenda kola center and room yange genda kubeera yakabi. So she takes me to this couple. They had offered to teach her for free. Bwe balaba nga ali interested in ngenze, they asked her to pay some money, but because gwali mulimo gwa mutwe, she really believed in this. It was in Kansanga Chiwempe. By the time I reached there, they had brought women and young girls that had previously trained from Masaka to handle the overwhelming orders zebalina ez'amasomero. So emirimu gy'emutwe bw'obeera attentive, a sweater esooka is when I learned. By the time we finished a sweater, I knew exactly
what
what
to do. The actual knitting. You are knitting the sweaters. Or are you
yes,
doing them on the machine?
we're using these domestic machines, the one you run from left to right, left to right, continuously.
Ones, yes, I know.
Yeah. So I learned, and they told me, yeah, once you learn, osobola nawe okwegatta kuba n'abakozi. So within the first sweater nali maze okuyiga. Kati what happened ne bangamba esweater gy'osuula wali siringi 1,000. Kati I thought of siringi 1,000 and the things I wanted to do in those 3 months. I started knitting sweaters. I'd get off the machine for prayer. And everybody looked at me, they could not believe. They started to cut on the women that brought from Masaka. Within 1 week, it was me and the couple. I was working really crazy.
Why are you not compromising your university education then?
No, by this time, this is the long holiday
Oh,
from
that's
university.
the long holiday.
I spent
Building
3 months.
time. Yes.
So I had these 3 months, and I said, okay, this is where I'm going to get my first million. Siringi 1,000 sweater. In 1 day, I would make like Bontuka Kubuno over nursery P1 P2.
Yes.
I would nsule sweater ngabiri in a day. Like a day in Kela Kumacha by Sam Kaga Winyinyuka. So I worked myself like a machine. I was the only one in the workshop. My one lady was leaving. And the lady was like, hey, and I didn't even see this coming because I had paid my tuition. I am working. I see money changing hands. We are buying stock. I worked. But before the end of it, up to around 2 months, let me leave this 1 month in case, as backup. Yeah. So I started giving them notice, ngenda, the orders. I worked myself like really crazy. Like a machine. Those anabo, they were so lucky. Banfunye, nalina energy, nina vibe, nkoze buli kintu. Oh my God, by the time, long story short, I'm leaving. I give them notice I'm leaving. Not even transport. I'm leaving. The next day, they say, we'll send the money. I would see the checks are there. The money was really there. They did not pay me. So I went back to my mom. I was crying. I'd never been that heartbroken. And she told me, you've learned a skill.
Have you used those skills later on at all?
I did use that skill to look for my own clients, even when I was at university. So I would leave, go get a client, take a sample. They would think it is imported. Say, are you the one who makes this? Say, yes. You give me an order of 100 within a weekend. I'm bringing the thing. So that was a very lucrative business that would grow, but it is a skill that you only have. So you try to bring in someone and you take the sweaters. If they're 200, they're going to divide them and say, we are taking these 130, the 70 we are leaving. And the 70 are the ones that you hired someone to help you to beat the order in time. So for a long time, this could be told. So it is something that probably I could only diligently do, and it is physical, and school people also, the money doesn't come. So it was a good skill, but I did not live to see it really grow in a dream that I had anticipated because
the surprising thing is,
those problems.
it is still a big skill. I mean, people go into those knitting clubs and they make a little bit of money. If you had the time, probably you are just in a different employment right now. But as a side business, like I think it was Safina, no, not Safina, it was yeah, it was Safina, I think.
I think it was Safina. It's
Yes.
Nanton.
Yeah, doing the samosas and going with them. You never know, you might just come in to find they might come in quite handy at some point. You just do the sweaters. You never know once you put it on the internet, especially now with TikTok, with Facebook, with Twitter or X as it is known now, you might be surprised as to what might be out there. The moment you just do them right, you might just start developing and getting your own clients. But that's a very, very good one. I mean, I thank you very much, Tiaga, for that contribution. I come to Fazil Mayanja. Please, if you can unmute yourself, and then I'll come to Isa Makumbi. Very interesting conversation. Isma, I hope the next clip on the Japanese is also getting ready. Once we finish with Fazil and Isa Makumbi, we shall be coming to that clip because I think it is important that you see these skills. Probably they might change your mind about the whole idea of skilling. As I come to you, Fazil, Nasamura, I think I got to a message I haven't read before, which was from Khanza says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have to leave you. Oh, sorry. Oh, subhanAllah. Duty calls. Alhamdulillah, we thank you for the time you've given us. This was from Nasamura Jazira, who says, for language, alhamdulillah, I thank Allah because there is something, Mr. Kayira, you said that Saudi is very difficult, but at a certain point, I believe that even not knowing their language knowing their language makes it easier. Why? Because you can express how you feel and you can say how you feel and what you want in a language they understand rather than English. Yes, that comes in quite handy a lot of times. Yes, Fazil, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome to a very interesting conversation tonight.
Very interesting indeed. Thank you very much for the conversation. I think one thing I've always admired about you is you being multilingual. Something that I always feel like, is something I admire a lot, living in a community, of different people coming from different countries. The community I live in, we have people from Portugal, right, people from Guinea-Bissau, people from Syria and all these other parts of the world. And it can get interesting at times when you speak something and you're misunderstood or you misunderstand it. It's very literally, I mean, it's very, very interesting. I mean, that's when you appreciate someone who really speaks, different languages. But going back to the topic, the thing about skilling is very interesting because, having grown up in a very big family in Kawempe, personally, I was also the last born. But there's something I remembered growing up, especially, amongst two hardworking parents. I remember we used to do my dad's chores, and then we also had to do my mom's chores. Now, for my father, I know like you're a farmer, and I think farming is one of the hardest jobs or one of the hardest things next to construction to some extent, because like, our dad used to, I don't know if you have planted vanilla before, but we used to have vanilla, and the way vanilla works is it can't pollinate itself, although it cannot be pollinated by anything, right? And you had to get like a toothpick and open the flower, and then when you opened that flower, then you had to kind of bring it together like this and then press it with your hand. And then you had to do that to almost like 1,000 flowers or something like that.
Like, what happens to your level of attention and even
exactly, because if you don't do that,
1,000 over one day, or is that over a couple of days?
No, it would be like for like 3 or 4 days, because we would do it in the morning and then do it in the evening. So you had to do that before you went to school. Okay, right. So and then you had to like almost like 10 each person in the evening and then in the afternoon. So for me, what I learned out of that literally was more like hard work. And the other thing I learned from my dad is that he was very hardworking, because from farming, he opened up a bakery, whereas the business didn't actually work very well. It collapsed. But that's where I learned how to make bread, and I also learned how to make donuts and things of that sort. But then when he ran out of business ideas, that's where my mom chimed in. Now, my mom ran a business of cooking sambusas for like almost 12 years, and we were literally engaged in that. And the idea of making sambusas, that is a skill I know very well that I can even do with my eyes closed because I was engaged in it for like
eyes closed then.
because like I did it for like 10 years, right? Before I even came over here. And we would make around like 700 sambusas a day because my mom would supply to different schools because Kalempe Muslim was there, then Stapolo Kagwan, all this kind of stuff. And then, because I remember I was going to Kalempe Muslim, and then you had to take the sambusas over there, and then the kids would see you carrying these baskets of sambusas. And, you know, that sort of thing that we would all feel as shame. That's why, like, I'm never ashamed of what I do in life to this day, because there are so many different things that I went through. But one last point would be, you know, for example, when we would do the farming, then we would come home and then my mom would say, okay, what you did, now for my mom, it involved to clean her room, tidy it up, make her bed, wash her bathroom, like scrub the bathroom from the top to the bottom.
Like spotless, with the sandals, with the butter sandals.
Exactly. And then wash, like iron the clothes, fold okuzinga amasuka and stuff like that. You know how
that whole bit of someone
exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
So you fold namuzinga amasuka and all that kind of stuff.
Oh God.
But
yes.
To that, and then you had to cook, mwasenku, munemufumba, and all this kind of stuff. Now, long story short, I didn't understand why they were doing all these sorts of things and why I thought I was being mistreated. But then I come to Europe and you find a person, they can't even light a fire without fire lighters or there's something they use to light fires. Like we would have a fireplace in my home and then my wife would see me light a fire without a fire lighter and she would be surprised. Yeah. Like, how do you do that?
Why are you using the stick and rolling it?
No, I would actually use a matchbox, but then, you know, put a few dry grass and then you put no console with your butono, then no gatako with your nene, and then you know, like white people can't make fire without.
Happen, you know, like within scouts movement. People went for scouts and girl guides, you know, courses. They would always come back with those life skills.
Exactly. But then also the other thing that I find very interesting is, okay, so when I came over here, definitely I would cook my own meals because I would miss food back home. And, you know, you cook your own meals and stuff like that. And then when you would have like a community gathering and stuff like that, then I would make the sambusas. And then when I would make the sambusas, everyone definitely, you know, they would enjoy them and stuff like that. But for me, what was very interesting is something that I've talked about on this platform is the idea of, you know, cleaning and stuff like that, which I ended up doing as a business, which is very interesting. Because the first day I came over here, you know, with my wife, like I'm not someone who is used to sitting back and just watch someone do something. I'm always used to doing something in the house. So I would always help out here and there and stuff like that. So when I was struggling with work, she was like, hey, I think you're good at cleaning. You're good at making beds. You're good at tidying up and stuff like that. I think you should turn it into a business. And that's how it started. And like you were speaking to your daughter there, Walda, about making beds, and she would be surprised, you know, the number of people actually who struggle, you know, who have seen exactly to make beds. And of course, for me, this was enhanced also in boarding school, because when you go to boarding school, you know, you have to have everything in check. You have to iron your clothes. You have to, you know, shine your shoes and then make your beds and make each and every.
That's the one thing that never doesn't happen anymore. We used to polish our shoes, you know, to perfect shine. You get your shirt with the kachindo that would easily cut you, even the trousers as well.
Exactly.
Smartness like was really, you know, it was there, and it stays with you. Fazil, as you're talking, you reminded me of a situation, because there are particular skills that you don't even have to be taught. You have to be creative, and improvisation is very critical. There was a time we were living with a stepmother, and this stepmother, may God bless her, because she's now. But she mistreated me so much with my sister, you know, my sister who follows me. We were very, very badly mistreated. We were looked at because we went into this village and we were the only ones who came with shoes in an entire school. We were the one above the Kampala, we were the only ones wearing shoes with socks. So 2 days we were in school with shoes. The third day, they just told us there is no way you can come to school. You are creating a bad environment here. We had to remove our shoes, and my sister ended up with jiggers that actually forced her feet just to look left, right, and center. But importantly, when we got home, it was done in such a way that whenever they were cooking food, they didn't put salt. So the mother, the stepmom would provide salt to her children secretly, you know, like, and, you know, sort of secretly, end up with salt. So I started doing rabbits, and some businesses you even never know you'll end up doing them. Now I've just remembered as you're talking, we started getting some rabbits, and we were looking after rabbits, and we would sell them. We were not even eating them that much, but we were selling them. They looked like a hobby. Faransa with, you know, with the nice red eyes. So sold the rabbit, and we would buy a packet, those sachets in the villages of salt. But then how do you come and put salt in food when your stepmom is there watching? Yet the idea is you shouldn't have salt. So we would go and wash our hands. When you wash your hands and they are wet, so you immerse your palm into the packet of salt. Then you come, you come to the food, and when you touch your food, it's like you're washing your hand in your food. Meanwhile, you're spreading the salt. This is not a skill you're going to get in any school.
True.
The improvisation, but it's because you are thinking around a situation. You've lived through a hard time, you work around that, and you find your way. We ended up with salt in
Interesting.
Go ahead, Fazil. I don't want to eat into the time as we
No,
want
it's
to.
okay. But also the other thing, recently I had gone to a shop, this Afro-Asian shop, and we were talking about boarding school. You remember something we called grab? Amaweke, then you have bundas, all this kind of stuff. And then I go to this shop, and I think the Nigerians call it chin chin.
Oh, the chin chin.
And I was really, really hungry.
Small mandazis.
The small bundas, those things. So I go in there, and then like a small bucket, and then it was sold to me for like, because I was always thinking about an idea like that. Okay, but then I bought the catino, but it was like £2.50, something like £2.50 or something like that. But of course, I've made chin chin at home by myself, because whenever we were going to school, we had to make them. You had to, if you go to Tesco here to buy nuts, honestly,
see
how much it costs. Kilo in an Afro-Asian shop, no, you take over my microwave, it's completely way cheaper. Absolutely. So when you learn these things in life, I mean, life or to some extent actually becomes, you tend to live at a cheaper cost. On the other hand, maybe you will spend more on things that actually cost next to nothing. So things like those chin chin or wundas. So I was like, these are things that I should be doing at my home, and I'm here buying them because engano egula less than £1. And then I'm buying them for, what do you call it, £2-3, then able to know this kind of stuff. So those are very.
It looks clearly that you are living your life. 9:30 o'clock. Very interesting program. Thank you very much again for your contribution. I'll cross over to Issa Makumbi, who's been waiting. Umar's hand is up, and JP's, I think that should be Jaden. Issa Makumbi, I come to you, and apologies, your hand has been up for so long. Off the back of the 3 hands, then we'll just play our one clip, and then we'll come back and, well, roll it to the very end. Issa, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you? And thank you again for being an ardent customer.
Yeah, this is a nice program that I can't miss every Tuesday.
Good to hear that.
I made an argument with my wife that when on Tuesday, don't bother me.
No.
I have to listen to my program. Anything done at home has to be plus side.
Thank you very much.
So the thing is, what I've learned from this program, or from my father, or the skill that I learned from my father, first told me that you have to work smart to make money. Second, told me that I'm not going to fight your wars. That other thing told me that you have to help the community, be within the community. I was living in Makerere. My father had the business in Wandegea, and I was studying at Chibuli.
Was
from
that
school,
the,
from
was that the
market,
butcher business?
butcher business.
Yes.
I had a butcher and petrol station, a petrol station. So I was living in Makerere, passing through Kitante. By that time, we used to have Indians. They had so many dogs. These Alsatian dogs, and used to give us money for transport. But we were very cheap. We wanted to save that money to spend on our luxury, buying marbles and everything. So we decided to walk. On the way, we started
So
encountering those dogs.
keep the transport money and walk instead.
Instead.
Uh-huh.
So we had those Alsatian dogs on the way. So they are terrifying us. So what I told, one day I was just talking to my father about those dogs. He said, I told you that I'm not going to fight your wars. You've got the money for transport. If you encounter those dogs, that's your business. So said, you just get a stick, small stick, that will solve those problems. The dog came rushing to me, big dog. I hit it hard on the nose. The dog ran. From that day, the dog never came to attack us. I know the dogs in that area, I think they communicated. They never gave us hard time. So I sold out my transport and I saved my money for my leisure. And then at the age of, when I was in primary 6, we used to go with him in Karamoja buying cattle. It was long, at least 2 days to go there and coming back. Then telling us the skills, how we do carry out those things. But because he was in that trade, it was if you're doing anything, you have to be smart in the mental arithmetic. For him, you could add anything, give you an answer, and then he used to change me from that. So I used to copy him to train up my mind how to do that. Then when I was in primary 7, he put us in train to Nairobi with my brother who had just gone to senior 1. But he told us that since you live in Kampala, you can find out your way in Nairobi. He told us the plan where to get that hotel to stay there for a week. We were in Nairobi for a week, and I accompanied. Never told my mother that was putting us in the plane to do that. Because of that, I never feared anything. To go anywhere, I didn't have any fear. Then from that trade, I learned a lot of, when I was at the age of, when I was in primary 6, I was dispensing petrol. Makere substation, had total petrol station, Makere Road. On us, I learned how to change tires, do changing plugs, changing oils from that skills. That's where I picked up my background from, the course that I'm going to take on. Because I was in trade, when I was senior 4, I never asked any money from my mom. Because I know how to do things. I used to make businesses, going to Coca-Cola at the age of, when I was 18, 19, claim that I'm getting married, getting Coca-Cola, getting the cheat. And then I said the flag of those cheat, and then make the difference. When I went to Soviet Union, when I was in A level, I was doing business. I used to go buy things on and off, exchange, blah, blah, make money. When my father died away, so I become one of the head. I was just like my mom to run the shop. I told her how things are run. That was my mom was giving her instructions and orders. This has to be done this way, this has to be done this way. And she became a successful one. She did a lot of business. When I left Uganda, I went to Soviet Union. It was a socialist state, but I ran money exchange underground. And I did trade underground. Black market. Yes. And I made money from that. When I finished, I started my career. I didn't fear anything. I went to the Middle East. When I went to Libya, I had 14 technicians. I didn't know any language other than English and Russian, and none of them could communicate in English or Russian. So I taught how to teach them, learning using their hands and getting things, inducting them. Within 2 months, everything had been in place. So we used to communicate. He taught me some Arabic. I started telling them what to do, and things worked smoothly. When I came to London, I knew how to get all that skills. But what my father told me that in life, I'm not going to fight your battles. Your battles are battles.
So
When I
have
was
you
secondary
managed to
school-
transfer these skills to your?
Hold on. I'm coming to that.
Yes.
When I was in secondary school, we used to have so many fights with others. I wasn't violent, but I know how to skill, how to maneuver. When it came to Britain, there was a bit of racism. My boy was being harassed in school. When they came to me and said, blah, blah, I'm being harassed, being bullied by the certain boy and the girl who are picking on me. I said, man, I'm not going to fight your wars. Should I go to a school and beat a small child? If you beat a child, it will be a problem. How are you going to solve the problem? I said, I don't know. I said, okay, I'll tell you the trick. I went to a shoe shop. I bought the big ones, shoes, which couldn't do damage, but if you hit someone, could feel it. I said, okay, get that one. If you see that boy coming to you and teasing you and blah, blah, if you kick her, even nice kick, one nice kick will solve the problem. Because I've been going, the teachers complain about that, but they used to know, they say, they're small boys, nothing we can do, blah, blah. As soon as you go that way, he kicked one. The whole word went around that the boy has got a big shoe that he used to pick up everybody. Then he had respect. From then, he became a prophet. So everybody had to run around whenever there was anything. And then from then, as it wasn't bullied in school at all. So he said, yeah, that's the problem. You solved your problem. I
Someone
didn't get
just
involved.
sent a message to say that was a violent encouragement from your dad when he said he wouldn't fight your battles.
Yeah. I said, I'm not going to fight your battles. So battles, you have to solve it now. I can advise, but don't be destructive, but learn how to go work within the law to find a way. And then from that, whatever they do, they say, if you go to your dad, he can advise you whatever to do, but never fight your battles. If you are looking for a job, he can advise, blah, blah. Other than that, you say, that's your game. I've done my job. I pay for your school fees. I've done everything, dress up properly, but I'm not there to fight for your battles. And then they become part of their life. If you're at work, if you feel that you are being bullied or discriminated, you have to fight it. What are the procedures? These are the procedures that you need to do. When I went in local authority, there was a lot of discrimination and people used to be sacked. People didn't, they knew, but they feared. They're scared. I said, okay, I'll take on you. I became a union member. I became a strong stewardess. Whenever there was anything, I used to challenge the managers, even go to the tribunals, challenging my directors because of the inspiration that if you're in trouble, don't go anywhere. You just have to do it yourself. And then I became most influential when I was in the borough. From the chief executive knew me, the political wing of the parties, I was over there. Whenever there was anything, I didn't fear talking to them or challenging them, as long as I am within the law. And that's what I've told my children too. If there's anything.
Amongst your children, which one has picked your skills the more?
Yeah, most of them. All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I said, for me, my plan is when it comes to say, when I turn 60 or 65, I have to go, but I won't live in my house. That's the thing was made it clear. You just have to find your accommodation, blah, blah. I'm not there to babysit you. I can support, but not babysitting you. If you need anything, I can advise. And all of them have gone. So I'm not like those who are babysitting their children. You find the times that they are at home giving you hard time.
All right. Isa, I think, yes. Okay, if you can wrap up, please, so that I can bring in more people. I think that.
Yeah, that's what I said. The other thing is, from what I learned from my dad, first to my children, that I'm not there to fight your wars. I can support, but to give you an advice how to do it properly.
Barakallahu fikum.
Yes.
Well, I think everyone listening into the conversation, if you joined us middle of the conversation, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we are talking about skilling. I think when I was speaking to Warda, Rana, and Aimal, I think earlier, Warda was referring to the idea that most of the skills that have been mentioned are sort of Ugandan things, but there is something that is called the transfer of skills. Transfer of skills simply means applying a situation, you've learned a particular skill, but then you apply it in a totally different environment. But you're using the techniques that you learned from that particular skill to apply it to that particular situation that might come to you. Listening a lot to the stories that my dad would tell us, he was traveling a lot. He went into Congo very early on when it was still even under the Belgians as a colony, not yet independent. Worked with the Belgians, became a mechanic. He would come back, and the kind of stories that he told us, throughout, started building a mental sort of picture that allowed us now to start thinking about, a worldwide perspective, a bigger world out there, and how you manage to maneuver. He would talk about how, for example, he would be driving a car and his car breaks down and he cannot find the spare part because he's in the depth of Congo and there's nowhere to find the spare parts. How he would sometimes just get a tree branch, cut it nicely, tie it where that piece, that's broken has been, put it there like a shock absorber instead, hold it onto that, manage to drive 20, 40 miles where he can get help. These skills became, quite instrumental. When I was just 14 years old, I escaped from home from Kenya, and I traveled all the way to Uganda by myself. No ID, no nothing other than the money that I had and my little jacket that I was wearing with my short piece of trousers that I was wearing. Managed to travel that distance from Nairobi all the way to the Antonde. This is more than 400 miles actually, and I came alone. But just using the skill because my dad had imparted that particular skill, talking about like traveling and journeys and so on. Used that skill and went ahead to, I would probably not be here if it wasn't for that. Barakallahu fikum. Jaden, I come to you. JP there, your hand has been up long and I can see 75 W radio hand up as well. We'll be coming to that clip. I would love really for you to watch this clip because it has a couple of lessons that I think they would be very good, especially for the young people to take away tonight as we leave. Yes, Bwana Jaden, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you?
I'm fine. You tried to unmute me a little earlier, but I was busy with things, so I couldn't speak.
Right.
But another nice choice of topic, which is really relevant at this time when our kids are at home, and I hope many parents are allowing their children to listen to this program. Now, my experience all stems from my dad. My parents separated when I was about nine years old, and my dad said he was not going to remarry, and he would take the role of bread earner and homekeeper at the same time. And this was 6 of us. I was the second born in line, and he would sort us in the morning to go to school. This was a day school. And then by the time we come back home, he's prepared meals and told us how to serve each other before rushing to his job where he was managing some business. So I learned how to manage home from that early age. Then my brother was shipped off to boarding school. So that was one way of parenting. My dad wanted to ease the burden at home by shipping us to boarding school. So my elder brother was the first to go to boarding. So when he went, I remained the carer for my sister and smaller brothers. So there was cooking, there was washing, there was cleaning the home. So those little skills that I learned from that age have stuck with me, and there's nothing which can phase me out. If it comes to ironing, I can do the ironing. If it comes to mending shoes, I can mend shoes. I can polish shoes. I can sew clothes. And I surprised my family recently by making a kanzu for myself just last year, all by hand without machines, stitching bit by bit until I could wear something. And they'll say, where did you learn these skills from? So those are the skills that my father transferred to me, and I learned through boarding schools. But the three key skills which I still retain and value, and which I hope I'm passing on to my kids. One is the skill of driving. My dad had a Zephyr 6, if you remember those Zephyrs, if you're old enough to remember.
Yes.
Yeah. And from the age of about 10, he would sit me on his lap and allow me to control the wheels, even before my legs could reach the pedals. And from that early age, I grew up with the car, and I'm so passionate about driving up to this age. And it's a skill which has saved my life in certain situations. It's a skill which has made my job very easy. It's a job, a skill which has made my life very convenient. And it's the same skill I'm trying to pass on to my daughters. Now, you can imagine how much it costs to go to a driving school here in the UK. I think it's about 25 to 30 pounds per hour. But if I put diesel for 30 pounds per hour, each of the girls will get at least 4 hours of driving from that, just because I got that skill from my parent, and I can never thank him enough. When I was doing, I was a social worker, I had cases in Southampton, in Northampton, Stoke-on-Trent, and I used to do visits. And my colleagues were quite terrified to drive long distances, so they would go by train and go by bus, and the council would pay for it, but the inconvenience and the hassle.
Yes.
But for me, because I love driving, I would drive the council vehicles. So take my time and drive all the way down wherever I'm going for visits and come back. And it would give me the time to sit with the kids other than running for the train or for the bus. So it made my work really very convenient and effective. So that's one skill which I really treasure. I haven't regretted. And I got myself in a pickle, and that skill kind of saved me, because there was a situation where I'm a personal the APC, that armored personal carriers, in a situation, and among the platoon, the driver got injured, and there was nobody to drive that truck out of the situation. And the soldiers were quite desperate, looking for anybody who could move that big of chunk of machinery. And because I knew that skill and were stuck in that situation, I thought, now this is my chance to get out of this area. And I hadn't driven that kind of machine before. And I said, I'm here, I'll help you. And I thought, I'm going to save them and save myself at the same time. And I moved that chunk of machine some distance, and they were very grateful and made my way out of that situation. So again, it's a very useful skill, which you never know when it's going to come in handy, but it really saved me on that particular instance. The other skill, which also transferring to my kids, is the skills of cooking. And I can cook.
What?
Cooking.
Oh, cooking, yes.
Yeah. In my home, we like eating like roasted food, and when you do the marinating and so on, I've got a particular skill of mixing bits and pieces, and I don't tell them the ingredients. I just say,
You don't give the recipe.
no, I don't give the recipe.
Those are secrets of the kitchen.
Secrets of the trade. I just say kuchanganya masabuni. So masabuni is now
yes, I can hear you. I can hear myself there.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
changanya the masabuni, and they are picking from the taste, and they can do it for themselves. And when they go to the university, they send me pictures of the foods that they have cooked. So there again, I've scored. I'm transferring those skills to them. But the biggest one is the attitude, because you can have all the skills, you can have all the knowledge, but if you don't have that attitude for work,
yes,
those will take you nowhere. When I first came to England with all my qualifications and all my postgraduates and so on, it's useless. Those are just pieces of paper here. And I started work as a security guard. And that involved running after the wrong guys, long hours, long distances from store to store. And
standing up.
yeah, standing up, very, very tiring work, and very stressful in London. You are keeping your eye on the sensitive stuff, the alcohol and the tobacco. Those are the sensitive and high price goods, and that put you in line with the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I survived that because I had the right attitude. I needed the money to pay for myself for board and eating and education. But I used that skill to get into some university as a porter. I'll not mention the university because at the time we were still what the sister said, before the papers before the papers became regularized. So
yes.
I joined that university as a porter, and we had access to, they gave us logins to the computer, like university logins, so we can have access. The purpose was to count the stock of reams of paper and what is that, printer ink and so on. So we had access to the university stuff. But I used that to my advantage, and during my break time, I would go and log in and teach myself computing. And from that point, I got qualifications and moved over to the north of England. Again, the right attitude made me survive all those hardships, made me focus on what I wanted to do. And I hope my girls are picking that attitude, because with skills, anybody can get a skill, but not anybody with a skill can wash the toilet. That's the biggest difference between being focused on skills and being focused on pride, what I would call pride.
Fantastic.
So,
thank you very much, then. Oh yeah, you had the Katalekeka?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's important. There's no skill which is useless. Any little skill which you can transfer to your child or to any other person, transfer it. You don't know when it's going to help them.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Bwana Jaden. It's 5 minutes to 10 o'clock. Oh my God, and time can run when a program is very interesting. It's my hope the clip is quite close. I'll just tell you very briefly that some of the skills do not necessarily, because there are certain things that you learn or skills that you impart without necessarily saying, I'm sitting you down now to teach you this. There are skills that you will be able to adopt. Oh, 75 W ready, I'd forgotten your hand was up. I'll come to you shortly. There are skills that you can just learn by just watching. I remember circa around 1985, we are in Nairobi, main stage by Embassy Hotel. We are preparing to go to Kenyatta Hospital. I'm with my mom. We are stood by the bus stop, waiting for those KBS, the Kenya Bus Service buses, the DAFs. And while we are standing there on the stage, there's a pregnant woman. She's literally, I think she must have been, coming from a very poor family. because she was just wearing a very plain dress, you know, and being pregnant, of course, it had even stretched the dress up. So it was looking like a mini on a fully pregnant woman, nothing else. I mean, she was just clad in that particular dress with a small handbag. She's there. Before we knew it, we are waiting for the bus. Poof, lady falls down, starts giving birth. My mom, first of all, bursts out in Luganda. Because we are in the middle of Nairobi, of course, no one will probably know the language. I am panicking. My heart is beating so hard. I've never seen a woman, you know, like give birth in a situation like that. I'm running around, but my mom is there. She just goes, grabs the woman. There's something that women do so quickly when they get into an environment of where like a fellow woman is in a situation, a compromising situation. They came very quickly, did a circle. They started, one woman got a sweater from herself, put down the sweater. They helped the woman and she was delivering. Because being young, I could sort of peep and I was seeing everything that was happening. I saw how they helped her, you know, push the baby out. My heart is beating, but I'm watching. This entire thing took about 25, 30 minutes, but they had literally cut off. The buses couldn't park. They just had to go on another side. My heart is beating, but I'm watching the entire process. I watched how the, you know, woman just got her sweater. She didn't care anymore. She just passed it on. They got another cloth. Before we knew it, the lady was standing up. The baby had hit because actually she pushed the baby when she was still standing. She just held onto my mom's shoulder like we are standing. She was standing next to her, grabbed my mom's shoulder, and then just pushed. And the baby's head went down on the, you know, you can imagine on the concrete, poof. And my mom goes, but because I was that day, and I ran fast and then come back. My heart is beating. But after 25, 30 minutes, the whole episode had ended. One of the women that was there had a pair of scissors they had managed to cut. She was a nurse going to the hospital. Everything, you know, like ran, and the one who was going to hospital now ended up delivering right there. So they just took her to hospital to deal with the after effects of that. 4, 5 years later, this is 1988. I had a cousin who used to bring the gari mpyas, the vehicles from these numberless, Nagoya, Mikawa, blah, blah, those ones that would be going to Rwanda from Mombasa. He comes with a driver. They were in a convoy of about 6 cars. They get to Kampala. I've left Bilal. It was day for closing school. I've gone to my uncle Haji Haruna in Katwe there. May Allah have mercy on him. I'm there just waiting to arrange for transport to go to the Antonde. Najib comes in and with a convoy of 6 guys, one guy was having serious trouble. He had a running stomach, mbiro chidukano non-stop. And so the driver couldn't continue. They were on a deadline. He had to deliver the cars, ASAP to Rwanda. And therefore he had no choice. So he sees me and he says, Kassim, do you know how to drive? I said, yes, najua, sini automatic. Eh. So he gives me the car, but in this car, this driver who suddenly found himself in this situation had a pregnant woman that he had given a lift to. So the woman couldn't go elsewhere. I had to keep the woman since, the other guy was feeling unwell. So he goes into Najib's car and we start moving in a convoy. They were still doing Masaka Road, Starling Company, I think, and Molem were the companies that did the road. We are just after Chinoni. This woman now goes into labor. It's me and her in the car. This is me 1988. This is me like in S2, senior 2. I'm driving, but woman now goes into labor. The memory of Nairobi immediately switches on. I stop the car. The woman is like in serious pain. We stop. She goes on into the bush. She had her own clothes. She was traveling with some couple of clothes. Immediately I went into action. My heart is beating. The convoy is moved because I was kind of in the middle. And when I stopped, they probably thought I was going for a short call. So they continued and they would have to wait. If they didn't see me probably in about 10 minutes, then one driver would drive back and come back and check what is going on. I end up delivering this woman by myself, senior 2, in a bush, in Chinoni Masaka Road, Chinoni Liantonde Road. Heart is beating. Woman was really very brave, like she went into pushing. I'm there. And I have never overcome. How I did that, only Allah knows. But this is a skill that I'd picked without being taught. I'd watched, I'd observed, and I'd seen. So a lot of these things that sometimes we do are not things that are necessarily someone will say, sit down and I teach you. It might be something that you see and you apply. You've watched so many movies. So today's people would be watching a lot of movies. In the movie, probably you've seen how it's done. You never know when you need it. It might just come in handy. 75W Radio, your hand was up. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh Kayira.
Wa alaikum salam. Is that Baker? All right, Ismail, please have our clip ready there while Baker finishes. Sarungo, congratulations. For the people in the conversation, in case you didn't know, Baker now is more than Sarungo. He had triplets by Allah's mercy. Now he's a Sabarongo. In Luganda, actually, there's not even
with
that
the doctor,
word.
Sheikh Kayira, with the doctor at the end, Sawarongo doctor. Sheikh Kayira, don't forget.
Okay, please go ahead. Skilling as a pro.
So basically, today I came across a doctor. He was coming from work, so we kind of like got talking, and we spoke about so many things. So I went to the community WhatsApp group, and I was about to send an audio regards to some of the things he was saying. But then I came across this topic today, so I was like, wow, I'll come and actually share this because it's kind of like similar to what you're talking about here, because there's a lot of information, but this generation is failing to tap it up. For example, there's so much information, but as a generation, we failed. Saying that people normally say, so that is something kind of like similar to what we were talking about today. Doctor, when I comes across, the generation his generation, there's a lot of information that they know, there's a lot of skills that they know, but literally it's so hard and painful for him to see that this generation here of today hasn't got a clue regards to what's happening in life. They are literally, we are as a generation struggling, and that's because life's one of the main skills that we haven't literally tapped up is life skills. Dealing of one of the main things of dealing an ANC, dealing with hardship, dealing with family issues when you get one, skills of dealing with people and communicating to people, how we should handle ourselves in public. These are some of the things why we are failing as a generation. Before looking at work skills, we need to help the next generation with the skills of how to deal with life. That is the number one thing that we need help with. And we find ourselves struggling and dealing with the same challenges our elders faced, and we are also struggling to deal with the same challenges. The doctor I met today, he was from the Pakistani community, and he told me that him and his fellow elders have decided to go back home. And because of what's happening here, the situation is not the same here as it used to be. And so what they've done is they feel like they're getting old, and they feel like they would gain more from back home and transferring those skills back home, whatever they've learned here. But at the same time, they need to make sure their children here, they've left them and equipped them with the same information that they have, so that they can be able to also survive and be able to literally survive the situation here. So just to be aware of the challenges that are here, dealing with hardship, what do you do? Not everything is going to go your way, and many parents are educated and have so many skills they learned back home, but they haven't taught them to their kids here, like sewing, as the previous speaker said, how to change a car tire, how to cook, so many skills. But you can help your child learn how to drive. Through that, you get to communicate to your child. Skills and it will help all of them. Maybe they might even be able to tell you. So that's just, I know this comes to the end of the show. I could literally go on because I'm very passionate when it comes to this. That's just a snippet of what I wanted to share. So maybe someone might go back home and reflect and be able to communicate to their child and teach them the life skills that their parents taught them, or maybe the community that they grew up in taught them.
Thank you very much, Baker. Tsarongo, no, not even Tsarongo. Now I need to find the right. Sheikh Anthony told me the right word for a person who gives birth to 3. If anyone remembers it, please drop it.
Doctor.
No. Lots of congratulations for you from Amina, and well, messages for you in the chat room there. Congratulations. Several from Aliyah as well. Congratulating you on that. Well, with life skills, I think the one regret that I have, and I would like to hear if there are any young people other than those that have already spoken, just to hear their own take on tonight's conversation. It doesn't help for us to just come in and just, sort of flag it out. Isma, I hope you are there, sir. Please, we need that clip on the 8 Japanese. But in the meantime, just before we go into that, I just wanted to mention that my biggest regret up to now, my biggest regret in life of a skill that I had an opportunity to get but never got, but Allahu A'lam, was the issue of learning herbal remedies. My father, without a shade of doubt, I'm absolutely certain, was one of the best herbalists in Uganda. I can say this without a shade of doubt because I've visited several herbalists, I've done programs on herbalists, and I've seen, the kind of stuff that they've done. My dad was a class apart, especially the manner in which he traveled so much, went to Tanzania, Zanzibar, went into Congo forest where there are just endless herbs. Now, because of our education, the feeling was always that might have shirk, that might have shirk. So I feared learning, how to use herbal remedies. And now I look at how the herbal remedies have become a big market, how they are everywhere. You just go into any medication and finally just ends up to that. This is my biggest regret. I wish it's too late. I never learned that, but that is one skill that I wish I had adopted. Probably it would be different. Naima Kayira says, where your child is not picking up what you're teaching them, please be patient. They are learning. There's no title for having triplets. He's just a lucky man. JP, that sounds like jealous from you there. Okay, please, Isma, go ahead, please, with that clip. And then I would love to bring, I don't know how many of you got a chance to watch the bricklayers clip in terms of skills. I would love you to watch that off the back of this. So Isma, as this one is playing, please load up the clip of the girl as well, so that we can have it, inshallah, and then we'll wrap up the program. Young people on the show, please, if you can raise your hand so that we can hear from you. What's your takeaway from tonight's, or maybe what skills you have learned? They might be not necessarily from parents, they might be skills from school, but not necessarily in the classroom. It might be with friends or after school clubs like the one that Safina runs. Isma.
Hi, I'm Aki. I'm Minimalist, who is a school teacher in a small village in Japan. So today I'd like to talk about 8 little Japanese habits to incorporate daily that makes your life better and happier. There are small habits that are so powerful and can have a big impact. All of them are habits that can be easily adapted into one's life. So please watch this video until the end. So let's get started. First, clean the toilet. You might think, what? Why? That's gross. Yeah, I know. But actually in Japan, it's said that cleaning the toilet is a great habit that makes your life successful. In fact, many achievers in Japan have a habit of cleaning the toilet daily. For example, Konosuke Matsushita, the founder of Panasonic, Takeshi Kitano, film director and comedian, Soichiro Honda, the founder of Honda. They all said that cleaning toilets was really important to their success. So why is this habit so important to them? I think there are 3 reasons for that. First, lucky, especially in terms of money. In the world of feng shui, there is a belief that cleaning the toilet will bring good luck. If you're willing to cleaning the toilet often, which people usually dislike, your mind will also be cleaned, purified, and this could possibly increase your fortune. Also in Japan, there's a toilet god named Ususama Myo-o, who brings you economy success. There is an interesting study in this regard. According to a survey by Lion Corporation, The annual household income difference between a house with a clean toilet and a house with a dirty toilet is $7,000. Funny, isn't it? They also found that householders who clean their toilets consistently are generally highly sociable. Maybe that's why they are more likely to be valued at work. Second, humble yourself. People also say that if you keep cleaning the toilet, you will become humble. Hidesaburo Kagiyama, the founder of Yellow Hat, is one of Japanese leading toilet cleaners. When he founded the company at the age of 28, he started cleaning the company's toilets by himself. And since then, he has continued to clean toilets for 53 years. I think he's the actual god of toilets. Anyway, he said, I've seen thousands of people cleaning toilets. Everyone becomes humble when they clean the toilet. And your humbleness is reflected in your work relationship. Third, to be able to organize your room. So this is something I've been thinking about lately. The reason is because toilets are typically white. You might think this toilet is clean, but then you will notice small stains when you look closely. In other words, you'll become able to aware of dirt easily. You then start to be more aware of garbage and things on the floor on your room. You'll start organizing more, so your room will be cleaner over time. I usually clean the toilet every morning. If you clean it in the morning, it'll feel nice to use a clean toilet all day and feel fresh in the morning. At first, you may think, I don't like it. But if you keep cleaning the toilet every day, it really feels good. You may notice the way you think about it over time. So I really recommend it. Second, organize your shoes. When you take off your shoes, you have to put your shoes together, nice and neatly. This is a habit my mother has been nagging me about since I was little. So what are the benefits of putting shoes neatly? Look at this video. In my share house, its shoes are messy. It would look like this. But if it's organized well, it looks like this. What do you think? You may think when you saw the organized one, you felt better, right? That's why I always do this and think, alright, I did it today as well. I also feel that keeping these small habits are also connected to self-affirmation. Okay, so this is just between you and me, okay? I sometimes put my friends' shoes together neatly, but if you do this too much, they'll get annoyed. So do it secretly when your friends aren't looking. Third, improve your posture. As an ancient Japanese way of thinking, correcting the posture of the body would also correct the way you think. That's why Japanese people in the old days had a good posture. Or rather, they couldn't help but be aware of their posture when they wear a kimono. When you're wearing a kimono, the obi belt helps you stand upright, so wearing a kimono will naturally improve it. Unfortunately, many Japanese today overuse computers and smartphones and tend to slouch. That's happened to me too. That's why I try to wear kimono as much as possible and stand up straight. Fourth, itadakimasu. If you've watched Japanese anime, I'm sure you've heard this word at least once. Japanese people always say it before eating, or they're chanting within their heart. Translated into English, it means thank you for the meal, but it actually has two deep meanings. First, I'd like to thank all the people who helped with this meal. We express our gratitude to everyone who was involved in the meal, including those who prepared the food, those who served the food, and even those who grew the vegetables. The second is gratitude for life. The Japanese believe that meat and fish, as well as vegetables and fruits, have life. So we are grateful for each ingredient. than thinking like, I will change your life to my life. As for food, I honestly don't mind eating anything. However, no matter what we eat, we must never forget to be thankful for all of it. Fifth, put the chair back after using it. Do you know Shohei Ohtani, who is a famous major leaguer? There was a great response to an act he did in a past interview. He had put his chair back neatly. Not everyone does it, but many Japanese put their chairs back when they are finished using it. I think this is because Japanese people are accustomed to thinking about other people's feelings. Sometimes we get tired of thinking too much though. For example, if you put the chair back on the blood train, it will be easier for the cleaning staff. If you put the chair back in the restaurant, the store staff will be thankful. It's really a small thing, but if you can think you're helping someone, you'll be happier. Sixth, ware tada taru o shiru. This is my favorite Zen word, and the Japanese who I think are happy have this spirit without exception. Ware means I, tada means simply, taru means what is enough, shiru means know. In short, knowing that you're content will bring peace to your heart. In my own words, if you look at what you don't have, you will feel dissatisfied with your life. But when you look at something you already have, you can appreciate it more. Oh, it's hard to hear this sometimes. For example, you may feel unhappy because you have no money, can't buy what you want, or if you don't have a healthy body. But at least you have eyes to watch this video and ears to hear my voice. Also, you have smartphones and computers that can watch my videos, right? Maybe you're sick right now, but there is a heart beating in you and keep you alive right now. Instead of looking at what you don't have, you can instantly feel happy by looking at what you have now. Having said that, I also sometimes look at what I don't have. So I try to be conscious of what I have now as much as possible. I'm still working on it, so let's grow together. Yay! 7th, おかげさま. How are you? おかげさまで I'm good. We sometimes have this conversation in Japan. If I had to, it would probably mean thanks to you or because of you. However, it has a deeper meaning. If you say おかげさま, this means not only thanks to you, but the person in front of me, but also friends around me, even people you've never met. So, おかげさまで I'm good means something like I'm good because there are many people who always support me. おかげさま is a magic phrase that can make you feel very humble just by using it. So please try using it every day. How are you? おかげさまで I'm good. 8th, going to bed early and waking up early. So this is what all Japanese people have been told by their parents ever since they were little. And this is a really simple habit, but it affects your life tremendously. You already know that, right? In today's busy Japanese society, there may be fewer people who do this habit. However, Japanese have long valued this habit of going to bed early and getting up early. Because the Japanese people in the past worshipped the sun every morning. They always started a day with worshipping the sun and saying, "Thank you for always looking over us." When I first learned about it, I thought it was a wonderful habit. Just imagine in the morning, bathing your body in the fresh light of the sun, which warms your body up gradually and makes you smile and feel happy. So I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. And I try to soak in the fresh morning sunlight and start the best day each day. Nowadays, I'm trying to wake up at 4 a.m. though. There's no sunlight yet. So now do you have life? You can start it now because there are small changes. Lastly, I'll give you advice when you want to make something into your habit. Start small step and keep saying every day, let's just do it for only today. Then over time, it will become your habit and your future. I'm not perfect either, but I'm trying to incorporate these into my life little by little. Thank you for always watching my channel.
You can understand why I was keen to have that particular clip. I hope you take lessons from that. Of course, there are things that are not applicable to us, especially, for instance, issues of worshiping the sun and so on. But the message is there that if you wake up early, even from an Islamic perspective, for example, waking up early is fundamental. In English, there's even the early worm now. The early bird catches the worm, which means, again, it's there. So allow me just to, I know we dragged it a bit long, just to watch this final clip, and then we'll be able to say our goodbyes. Remember, if you've missed any bit of this program, you can always go back onto YouTube, just type in Ummah Connected and just search for Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira. You'll be able to find those programs, or just go to Facebook and just type in 75W Radio. Under, you'll find, again, Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira, and you can listen back to any of the programs that you might have missed. Allow me to play this last clip simply because this is the story of Sharon. I'd shared this clip earlier, but not everybody probably got to watch it. I would like to see what skills, the difference that skills can bring in one's life.
For many women of her age, this is a time to slay, but that's not Sharon's way. Following the death of her mother when she was in primary 3, she embarked on the skill of bricklaying, taking from her father.
And I didn't have a mother, I didn't have a judge, I didn't have an auntie. So I grew up alone. It is just devotion. If you know what you want, sometimes you can manage it.
It starts with preparing the soil, the base raw material for the bricks. It's not an easy task for the uninitiated, as I found out. This soil depth is enough to make 15,000 bricks. The harder bit is the mingling of the soil with water. That is before the mixed product is put into the casting frames that gives the bricks their shape. This is something that takes years to master.
My dad could not raise money for our school fees. I was in S4, and we used to be sent out of school day by day, and everyone could mock me, like, for you, even if it is a teacher, the teacher could come, like, you're in class, have you paid our school fees? So I used to feel bad, but I tried my level best because my dad went to these loan groups, so he could get loans to pay our school fees. When I reached senior 6 in my vacation, I said, no, me, I'm not going back to school. Let my young ones go to school, because our dad could not do it anymore because his rib got some problem because it cracked.
It's no easy feat balancing academics with bricknomics, yet it seems seamless to the 22-year-old even finding time to help Halima, her best friend. Between the keyboard on her laptop and the hole in the soil, there seems to be no rest for Sharon. No sooner does she complete the day's task of bricklaying than she gets pimped up ready for the university. She's even managed to make new friends at the university, something unimaginable only a few years back.
The most challenging time was that time when I could not get enough, because I used not to have like friends at school. Friends could mock me. I used to put on torn uniform. I had no shoes sometimes. Sometimes if I have shoes, they could be torn. My stockings, I was shabby. That was the most challenging time.
Inside Mutesa 1 University, if you didn't know Sharon's story, it would be very hard for you to separate her from the student crowd. She's made new friends, and her growing celebrity status resulting from a Facebook post that catapulted her into instant fame, sought after by the media as a slave bricklayer's arms, She's already getting invites to address several gatherings as a source of inspiration.
Me, I used to see myself as someone who is poor, someone who cannot be anything. But at least now I'm happy because very, very many people come to me and like, how have you done it? People call me to their conferences. They want some bit of advice. And people invite me in schools. They want me to talk to their children. So I'm really, really, really blessed. I feel happy.
Sharon's success is already rubbing well on the family coffers. Her father, Stephen Semasaka, is only full of praise for his hard-working daughter.
I'm so happy that she has adopted my advice and training, becoming what she has become. I pray that she finds a rich and hard-working husband that can enhance her, not a poor, lazy sort.
Sharon's dream is to enhance her business from soil to sand, from hand labor to a machine. That requires a lot of hard work and money. But seeing how far she's come, I don't doubt that that dream is within reach. Kassim, Kayira, Azam News, Kampala.
Well, I hope that is a good point at which, of course, that break, I'm sure, went onto someone's house somewhere in the world. I think it's a good point for us to say good night. It's just saying thank you very much to everyone who has been part of the conversation. Ajat Sarah Semakura, you've been so quiet. It was unbelievable to even imagine that you've been part of the conversation. But the class was full today, and we managed to, I think, delve into some areas that of interest. Ajat Sarah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's been really interesting hearing other new people giving their views, which has been so great. And I've learned lots of stuff.
All right, and Abdurrahman, I think says, I like the brick that you wrote on. Yes, I hope that brick is on someone's house, but you saw my lifting. It just showed a lot of amateurism. Yes, thank you very, very much for a very, very beautiful program. I hope that you can join us next week again, inshallah, same time, 8 p.m. Looking for these global community conversations that bring families together. I thank every parent that endeavored to bring their children to be part of the conversation. Maybe they didn't get a chance to speak, but it was not for lack of time. It's just probably they were in the background there. Hopefully we can just drag them in. Let's have these programs. There's still about 6 weeks to go before schools reopen. And therefore, that means there's a lot that we can touch on. As a community that is growing, we have so many challenges. But I think, like Becca did raise, we need to raise a lot of these skills, just like many of you have come in to bring in skills that have come in to help in different aspects of life. Becca, I see your hand, and I was just about to say good night, but probably you want to trail tomorrow's program.
Yes, Kayira, I was just about to give an example that at a sports day, there was I came across a boy who was about, I think 14 or 13, and he asked me to tie his shoelaces. I was like, why don't you, how come you can't tie your shoelaces? He was like, no one ever told me. I was like, I was just gobsmacked. I just got down and just tied his shoelaces. But it goes to show that so many skills we underestimate. So many young people need them.
But do you know, it sounds like an easy thing, yet it is not that easy, by the way. You know, when you have to look at how to fold them, and everyone does it in style. There are people who just put it in and, you know, and I'll surprise you. Like, for example, my first tie that the tie that I made a knot of was done by my wife. I didn't know how to make a tie. My wife
Really?
Yes, I didn't know. And yet, all my life, all my television life, for 27 years, I've been on television, and it was a tie. But the first tie that I actually did was done by my wife. Yes, she knew how to. That came in quite handy. So there are things I think we shouldn't take for granted, and I think that was what was also mentioned about patience. When children, you know, come in and talk about these things, let us not underestimate what they are capable of. Things like, even like, for example, personal hygiene, how to shave, you know, like the private parts. There are many young people that don't know, and sometimes when you mention it, it sounds like, you know, but like, you know, be girls sometimes are in a better place, especially, you know, with their moms and so on. Boys, unfortunately, I think the boy child is really, really suffering because fathers have relegated their responsibilities. The kind of lives that we are living now, I don't know what sort of future we are preparing, but I think we should all just continue doing our very best. We should not give up for any reason. Thank
Someone
you
asked me, Kayira, before you, someone asked me, why did I help them? I was actually in a rush. I was leaving because I had to leave early, but they've challenged me actually. Next time I see him, because I see him often, next time I see him, I'm going to actually see him down and teach him how to do it actually. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks to Warda Jamil and family, Safina, Yasmin, and Aliyah, who joined a bit late into the conversation. I'm sure you've managed to catch something, or you can just go back onto YouTube and just get the entire program. Very fantastic program. It's been Habiba, Rap and Sons, Aida Sonko, Amina Natiaga, iPhone JP, and family, Isa Makumbi, as usual. Sakari, you've been quiet there. Aimal and Rana, Ajat Sarah Semakura, Thalatha, 75W Radio in the studios, making sure everything goes well. Hasfa there in the United States, in Maryland, Aliyah, AC, and Abu Fahima with the pancake sign there. Barakallahu fikum. I'm sorry for going over time, but I think it was worth it. It was a very, very nice program. Hope to see you next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. as usual, inshallah. Have yourself a very good night. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi